Welcome everyone to the Land Use Board meeting of August 2nd, 2021. We will begin our meeting by standing and doing the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by postings on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press.
That's what I meant.
This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. The quorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call. Mrs. Eddles?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Horensky? Mrs. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Muha? Mr. Pisano?
Here,
Mr. Stevens? Mrs. Baxter? Mr. Meadow? Oh, I have Scott joining again. Mrs. Ballmiller?
Here.
Mr. Jenna?
here,
Mr. Tinquist?
Here.
Mr. Bobo? And Mr. LaFredo? All right. And then I did just have Scott join in too.
Yeah, Scott's here.
Okay.
That's here, yeah.
All right, moving along. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes, please, of July the 6th?
So moved, Penny.
Okay, second,
second. Joe,
Okay. All in favor?
aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
okay,
Minutes
can
approved.
I have a motion for approval of the bills?
I make a motion.
Joe,
I'll second, Penny.
okay,
All right, Mrs. Eddles?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Horensky?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhart?
yes,
Mr. Pisano?
Yes,
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Yes.
Mr. Jenna?
yes,
Mr. Tinquist?
Yes.
All right, bill's approved.
all right, moving along to the escrow request application 2019-03, 116 Dolphin Avenue. It's a performance bond release, $13,380. And application 2019-18 Murphy's by the Sea for an escrow return of $532. The following applications have been reviewed by the three-person committee board. Feeling Blue LLC, 325 9th Street, Cart 3, has been approved to sell repurposed denim accessories such as purses, coasters, and keychains.
So Bonnie, on the escrow releases, I think you're gonna need a motion and a second and
All of that.
to
We
approve.
have a
of it.
motion to approve application 2019-03 for the performance bond release of $13,380 for
I so moved,
116 Dolphin Avenue.
I so move, Penny.
Got your second? I'll
second,
second, Bonnie.
All right, roll call. Mrs. Eddles?
Yes.
Mr. Horensky?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhart?
Yes,
Mr. Pisano?
yes,
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Yes.
Mr. Jenna?
yes,
Mr. Tinquist?
Yes.
the next one, application 2019-18 Murphy's by the Sea, escrow return of $500.32. Have a motion to approve. Motion to approve this.
So
second.
moved.
Thanks, Penny.
second,
Second,
All right, Ms. Eddles?
Yes.
Mr. Horensky?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Jenna,
Yes.
and Mr. Tankquist.
Yes.
Okay, moving along to our application tonight that was carried from the last meeting, application 2021-12, HMS Pesach LLC at 340 Kenford Avenue, Block 17, Lot 10. The applicant is seeking variance relief to construct a 12 by 16-foot two-story addition in the location of an existing wood porch in the rear of the home. In addition, the applicant is looking to construct decks, including a roof deck, and reconstruction of landings and steps on the west side of the dwelling. The expansion of the existing nonconformities requires variance relief for lot area and lot width, side yard and combined side yard setbacks. Okay, who's speaking for this applicant tonight?
Thank you. Good evening. James Rabin on behalf of the
James.
applicant, HMS Pascack LLC. So when we were before the board at last month's meeting in July, there were some revisions that the board had requested with respect to the plans. So Mr. Brearley and Mr. Jacobs revised their respective plans. We've added curbing and sidewalk to the plan to show that that is now proposed with a 20-foot curb cut, I believe. And we also revised the configuration of the pavers. The impervious coverage complies, even including the parking spaces. We're still under the 60% maximum permitted impervious coverage. And also there was a question as to grading on the plan, and we've added some grading calculations, and there are proposed 6-inch timber tie walls on either side of the property, which Mr. Jacobs will get into a little more detail about to help with drainage. And just bear with me one moment. And yeah, I think those were all the items that needed to be added. I will note with respect to the impervious coverage, the way the ordinance was amended regarding impervious coverage in 2020, it seems to suggest that unpaved parking spaces such as this would not be included in impervious coverage. And I know Mr. Brearley's office was in touch with Joanne Talon, the zoning officer, about her interpretation of that. It's sort of moot for this application because even counting the parking spaces as is impervious coverage, we're still below the 60%. But I did just want to point that out, that the prior definition said that all parking spaces and lots paved or unpaved with non-porous material were included, and it was revised where paved or unpaved with non-porous material was removed and replaced with all paved parking spaces and lots. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. Again, regardless of which interpretation we utilize, we're under the 60%, but it just wasn't 100% clear to me. Under the definition, I felt that those stone parking spaces would not count toward impervious coverage.
So Jim, it's Frank Little.
Sure.
At this point, you're correct. That part of this application is moot because
Right.
you're still under the coverage, but I guess after we deal with your application, I think the board needs to discuss the interpretation of that ordinance, just to
Right.
have a closure on that particular ordinance and what the intent really was going forward. So at this point, I don't think we have to get into it specifically for you.
Agreed. Right. No, I agree.
Because, don't throw you over the 60%.
Right.
For the board's edification, after this application, we need to discuss that tonight. So we can update the zoning officer on how the board looks at that particular provision.
Thank you, Mr. Little. So I think at this point, I'll call Mr. Jacobs to go over specifically the revisions that he made to the variance plan.
Mr. Rabin, if you don't mind, let me just take a minute real quickly. I'd like to just
Sure.
mark a couple exhibits here. Mr. Jacobs' exhibit 7/21/21 will be A5. So when Mr. Jacobs is referring to that, please just make sure we're all aware of it. It's going to be a
Sure.
new exhibit A5. Mr. Braley's exhibit 7/22/21 revised architectural, that will be A6, and Frank's letter will be B2. Okay.
Thank you.
You want me to swear in Mr. Jacobs here?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Jacobs, I don't see you. Would you raise your right hand, sir?
Yes,
There you are. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
yes, I do.
Okay, and your name and address for the record, sir.
Bruce Jacobs, Jacobs, 414 Lacey Road, Forked River, New Jersey.
You were sworn in last time as an expert, so Bonnie, if that's okay, we'll just continue.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs, since the last application, we've submitted a revised plan, which Mr. Shin just noted we're marking as Exhibit A5. Was that prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes, it was.
And I gave an overview for the board, but if you could just get into a little more detail of what changes were made to that plan.
Okay, can we bring that plan back up on the screen? Okay. We're looking at the right-hand side of the drawing under proposed. And what we did is, at the board's request, we installed curb and sidewalk along Kentford Avenue. And we removed some pavers in the rear of the site so that we could count the impervious coverage of the driveway and meet the impervious coverage requirements and be significantly below it. We're around 55.18%, where 60% is allowed. Well, as a result of increasing the putting the curb and sidewalk in front of the site, it raised the front of the site about 6 inches. So what we did is in order to have positive drainage from the front of the building to the street, we increased the fill area around the front of the dwelling to approximately 6 inches as well. And now there's positive pitch to the street, which is good design practice. Consequently, as a result of all that, we also installed or proposing 6-inch high timber ties that run along the side property lines from the street right away to the back of the dwelling, or on the left side and the back of the dwelling and patio area on the right side or east side of the house. We did that so that we could channel the runoff that would come off of the lot or from the roofs and channel it down the side property lines, either to the front yard, to the street, or to the rear yard, to a proposed drainage system that we're putting in along the rear of the property line. That drainage system will be an underground recharge system, and we'll have 2 inlets to pick up the runoff from the lot. And the lot in the rear part of the lot, it will be graded towards those particular yard inlets. So having done all of this, we feel that we have satisfied the requirements of the town as what was proposed at the last meeting. There's a variance requested for parking. You will recall that the existing dwelling, we're not doing anything to where it's positioned in the front yard. And there was 2 existing parking spaces for the 2-family dwelling that were legal. And there are 2 proposed parking stalls for the proposed dwelling. So the rest of it will be, because we're curbing the site, the rest of them will be, the other 2 required parking stalls will be on-street parking.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. I believe that covered the revisions. Are there any questions? I think we addressed the items in Mr. Little's letter.
I have a question. I just want to know why why are they redoing the steps on the west?
I will defer to the architect on that, but it's so that, but the reason is so that they can access the rooftop deck.
Oh, okay.
I have a question for Mr. Jacobs. How come there's no paving around the pool? How would that even, wouldn't the ground just sink around the pool?
It's an above ground pool.
What do you, it's not an in-ground? I don't understand.
Right, it's an above ground pool. It's not an in-ground pool. I don't know exactly, Mr. Jacobs would know better than me. Are there any requirements for an above ground pool for any type of pavers?
No, no, they're not.
Okay,
And to answer her further question, we have, with the impervious coverage left over, we have 231 square feet of additional impervious that we could install. So if the applicant so chose, they could reconfigure the pavers to go around the pool if they so chose.
Can you have an above ground pool in a flood zone
It has to be anchored down,
with pilings, correct?
or some sort of anchoring device, yes.
That's pretty nerve-wracking as a neighbor.
It's no different than an in-ground
Put it
pool.
on volume. Wait a minute, they can hear you. They can hear you. My God. Mr. Raven,
yes.
I think we discussed initially an above ground and then it was suggested.
Just for the
an
record,
in-ground, an in-ground.
let me just stop you 1 second, Mr. Soffer. I know you spoke briefly at last meeting, but let Mr. Shin re-swear you in.
You want to do that now, Mr. Raven?
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Salford?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Can you raise
Can
your right
you
hand,
see
sir?
me?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your name and address. I know you gave it to us last month, but give it to us again, please.
That's fine. My name is Harry Soffer, managing member, 11 South Pascack Road, Spring Valley, New York, 10977.
And thank you, Mr. Soffer. I know you were just trying to add something to that discussion. You can go ahead.
No, I think that initially we had discussed an above ground pool and then
People said it was too much
that
maintenance.
that discussion became, and I think according to the town engineer as well, it was stated an in-ground pool.
Okay.
Bruce, I think, I'm under the impression we had discussed an in-ground pool.
It could be either an in-ground pool or an above-ground pool, and
Right.
it's conforming to zoning requirements, and it would be subject to the building department getting issuance of a
Thank you.
building permit.
Thank you. I knew there was some clarification. I wasn't sure.
So I'm
And
sorry, just so I'm clear, Mr. Soffer, so you're not certain you would like the right to have an in-ground or above ground?
We would like either an in-ground or above ground, but people have said the above ground might be a lot more work.
Okay,
So we would like the opportunity to price it out with pool places and see.
We haven't really,
so to the extent that it's an in-ground pool and pavers are required, will be restricted to comply with the 60% coverage.
Right.
right.
Okay,
And I'm still under that, I'd still be under the required,
right, 'cause
amount.
right now we're not showing any around the pool, so that the pavers that are shown could be relocated, and we also have an additional just under 5% to play with as well. So I don't think that's an issue.
okay.
I just have a quick question, just for my own curiosity. How in the world would they ever dig a hole in the backyard for a 20 by 12 pool
Well,
When there's only 4
yeah,
feet on the
it's a good
side, one
question.
side to get back there.
It's the
How does
best
that work?
question. It's the best question. We discussed it with our neighbors, and our neighbors may let us go through their property.
For pilings and everything, if you do an in-ground pool and you put pilings, you have to have pilings to anchor it.
Right.
What's
It would
that?
be,
She
it
said
would
for
be subject
pilings
to
and
the,
everything.
Yeah, obviously.
I can't hear you. There's a helicopter going over.
Yes, the answer, yes.
They can get back there?
Oh,
the
yeah.
The answer is we would work with the pool company and their equipment to see whether we get easements or work through the adjoining neighbors to construct the pool, or they have to use modified equipment to get in through the side yards.
Well, that's
And
really modified.
both.
If there's only four feet, some inches on that one side. So that's
Yeah.
really modified you're talking about, but go ahead.
That's the joys of all the equipment that they make these days.
I would be.
They have cranes.
Are there any other questions for this witness? No?
No questions from me. Thank you. And I'd like to recall Craig Brearley just to briefly touch upon the stairs, since there was
Okay.
a question about that.
Yeah.
Mr. Burley, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
And your name and address, sir?
Craig Brearley, 799 Route 72, East Manahawkin, New Jersey.
You were sworn as an expert last time, so you'll continue as an expert. Go ahead, Mr. Raven.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brearley, there was a question just as to the reason for the reconstruction and relocation of the stairs. If you could explain to the board the reasoning for that.
Yes, what got modified on that plan is that we shifted the mid-level landing to the second floor, so that it's actually in line with the floor of the first floor, so that we could provide access to the first floor unit also with the same stair. In the result, we end up a little over a foot and a half back from the original proposal towards the front yard. So it's a reduction of the, we'll call it encroachment towards the front yard with the stair by pushing it back further.
Okay. Thank you.
There was a proposed spiral on the last plan also, so that's not a new item added this time. That was in the original proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Beardsley?
No,
No? If there are not any more questions, I'd like a motion to open it to public comment. If everybody's
I so move, Penny.
second.
Second, Jerry.
And if anybody from the public has a comment, you can just unmute yourself, turn your camera on and begin talking, or you can just press the raise your hand button and I will unmute you and call.
Hello, I can't get a picture, but I have a question.
If you have a question, I don't need to swear you in, but just state your name and address for the record for us, please.
Pat Butler, 333 Kentford Ave.
Thank you.
My quick question was there a rooftop? There was supposed to be a hot tub on the roof. Did things get changed around and now there's a pool in the backyard? I'm just very confused.
I know nothing about that. We know nothing about a hot tub.
There was always a pool proposed. Mr. Soffer, was there a hot tub proposed on the roof?
I'd be able to answer that. The roof deck is, a portion of the rear of the roof deck is designed for a hot tub load,
All right.
in case it's ever being placed up there.
That's right. I remember we discussed that at the last meeting. You had the hatched area to show the area
Correct.
where the hot tub could potentially be placed.
That's correct.
Okay.
that answer your question?
No, because I still don't know whether there's going to be a hot tub and a pool or whether it's just one or the other. I'm just confused, that's all.
But both are proposed. It's not certain whether either will definitely be installed, the hot tub or the pool, but the plan is showing proposed pool and hot tub so that they would have the option of doing both.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Is there anybody else?
I do not see anybody else.
Nobody else?
Nope.
Okay, can I have a motion to close it to the public, please?
So
Motion
moved,
to
Penny.
close.
Everybody's.
All at once.
Second, Scott.
Okay, so we've heard all the testimony tonight. Does anybody have any other questions or remarks they'd like to make before we
I would
make
like
a
to-
motion?
I'd like to just kind of discuss that, this is, the hardship here is that it's just a non-conforming lot. And this is a lot. I mean, this is a duplex. So we'll have 3 bedrooms on the first floor and 3 bedrooms on the second floor. Now, if we're adding a third bedroom to the second floor. So if this property was ever going to be sold in the future, you're adding existing bedrooms to a nonconformity. And we're not supposed to be enlarging upon, expanding, or extending nonconformities. I mean, that's why obviously that the applicant is here tonight. But we have to think, the big picture here. This is why that we rezoned, and this is why we, only allow duplexes on a 6,000 square foot lot, so you can have enough parking and have enough room. 3 bedrooms on each floor requires 4 parking spots. And with the existing nonconformity, I just don't feel that there is enough room here. I mean, if this was to be demolished and you would have a single family home, you could have a 2,400 square foot home. The parking would be there. You could have your 5 bedrooms. You would have your setbacks. You could get back and do your pool. It's just not fair for this type of lot to be expanded upon. So that's how I feel about this. I don't think that this is really proven to be a hardship here, just because it's a non-conforming structure. It's too much.
Are there any other comments?
Yeah, this is Jim Stevens. I had a question for Frank. On the drainage, to me, it looks like everything's going to the rear to these grates and some sort of storage. Are there calculations on that storage that says that can handle any sort of storm event?
Typically for recharge systems, even when we require them, they're usually only good for about a 2-year storm. So most of the time on the residential lots, when you see these roof drain systems, that's typically what they're designed for. If you get a 10-year or anything above that, the island's flooded and these systems typically don't work. So if you get a normal rainstorm, it's going to work. If you get anything bigger than that, everybody else is in the same boat, basically. You wouldn't be able to design anything, if you went to a 10-year storm, the whole yard would be full of pipe.
I don't disagree with that, but it looks like all the water's going to the backyard the way it's graded.
Well, the
My
front
question
yard,
was, was it designed for the 2-year storm? Do you have calculations of that?
I don't, but typically we have standards in the ordinance that require on lots over 5,000 square feet, if you trigger a soil erosion permit, you're supposed to put 1 foot of 12-inch perforated pipe in per 100 square foot of roof area. That calculation was based on a 2-year storm. So if you have a 2,000 square foot house, you only need 20 foot of 12-inch pipe to comply. They're proposing 40 feet of recharge trench and inlets in the rear.
Okay.
So it's going to handle the rear. The front is graded so that the water from the front of the house runs out to the road. So
Right,
you're
it looks
probably
like-
taking part of the rear area and, the stone in the rear yard and some of that area into this recharge system.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Let me just make a comment real quickly, Mr. Raven. Just say, Mrs. Eddles wasn't here last month. She did listen to the tape or watch the Zoom. She will sign a certification, so if you don't mind, she'll participate tonight in the voting, if you have an objection to it.
That's fine. You said she did listen?
She told me she
Yes.
was
Okay.
going to sign a paper today or tomorrow with Lauren and get that to her for the file, so, okay. So that gives you one more person to consider this application, because we are a little light again tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, this is Jim Stevens. I came into the meeting a little late. Am I able to vote?
That was last time, right?
No, this time.
Did you miss any of the testimony, what was discussed tonight, or did you? If you missed any of this testimony that was heard tonight on this application, you shouldn't participate tonight.
Okay.
You shouldn't vote on it anyway.
If the engineer testified in the beginning, I missed that. I was here for the Craig, and I was here for the applicant's testimony.
Yeah, Mr. Jacobs did do some testifying, so you shouldn't participate tonight on the vote. On the vote, you can always ask questions, but you shouldn't participate on the vote.
Okay. And yeah,
Okay, any other comments? Okay, may I have a motion to approve or disapprove this application?
I make a motion to disprove this application.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Scott.
All right, Mrs. Baumiller,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
No.
Mrs. Eddles,
No.
Mr. Herensky,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
and Mr. Tinquist.
Yes.
So
So
you
the
have,
majority
Yeah.
denied the application.
yeah, application denied.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raven.
All right, do you want to discuss, it's not on the agenda, but Frank brought it up tonight about this parking and impervious coverage with the parking areas?
Could I say one thing?
Who is this?
This is Marilyn Soffer.
Actually, you shouldn't, ma'am. The application's already been heard and denied. So, you should talk to your attorney at this point.
Well, our home was just for our family. Now our home will be a rental.
Ma'am, you really should not be talking. You need to talk to your attorney because your application has already been voted
I
on.
know it's denied, but it's unfortunate for you and for us. It's truly unfortunate for all of us.
I'll give you a call, Mrs. Salfer. We'll speak about it.
I'm going to get off South.
Okay, do you want to just take time to discuss this parking and impervious coverage about the ordinance, Frank?
Yes, so at some point, not that long ago, we changed the ordinance and I'm looking at it on the other screen and it talks about all paved parking spaces and lots. There's a lot of other language in it. And there's a lot of commas in it. But when you get down further in the ordinance, it talks about, I guess, ground condition. Let me just read it a minute. I'll tell you what, I'm going to read the whole thing because it's going to, if I don't, you're going to miss part of it. So right now it says all paved parking spaces and lots, comma, swimming pools, comma, hot tubs, comma, whirlpools and other bodies of collected water, buildings, comma, roads, comma, driveways, walkways, tennis courts, patios, and any other structure or on-site material surface covering or ground condition that do not permit the natural soil absorption and permeation of water shall be considered impervious surfaces and included in the computation of lot coverage, except that ornamental coverage of a lot with stones or similar materials or in-ground landscaping, sod or grass shall not be considered part of the impervious lot coverage.
Read that again, Frank. What is not considered part of it?
Basically, if you have decorative ornamental stone, if you have grass, sod, that type of stuff that allows water to permeate through it, it's not considered impervious. So,
But what happened to the whole thing that if they drive over it all the time?
well, that I think is probably, at one point, I think the board talked about this and decided that if you do drive on a stone parking stall, it's compacted and more than likely it's impervious. And I believe CAFR considers that impervious coverage also. So if you have a gravel parking spot, they look at it as impervious. So I'm not sure, you know, I think the board just needs to make an interpretation that the way they understand this ordinance, if it's a parking space, it's considered impervious regardless of the type of cover that you use, paved, you know, brick pavers, you put stone down, whatever. When you drive over it, it's got to be compacted hard enough to support a car. And in a sense, then it becomes impervious. So, you
Okay,
know,
so
that
all
was in my
parking-
review.
So
Yeah.
basically what you're saying is all parking spaces, no matter what the covering is
Right.
impervious.
And we probably should have had it say all paved and unpaved parking spaces, but we did throw driveways in there, although, you know, a driveway gets you to your parking space, but, you know. So I mean, I think the interpretation that the board's gonna come up with is that if it's a parking space, it's considered impervious regardless of the cover. And I
Okay.
think we have to kind of make a motion to agree on that so that we can advise the zoning officer that we've interpreted it that way, so she counts that as impervious.
Does everybody agree with that, or do you have any other opinion on it?
A question. So if you have pavers that are installed to allow a pervious situation and it's not a parking area,
We don't count that. Any pavers of any kind are considered impervious. We got
Any
away
paver-
from that. Originally, we were doing the 60% impervious and 15% porous. And we brought everything down to 60%. And it doesn't matter whether it's a porous paver, a
Okay.
deck, whatever, in that 60%.
okay.
Because it got too confusing to figure out what 15% was being placed as porous and what wasn't. So we decided to streamline it. We went down to 60% and that's it.
So even if somebody makes their driveway or parking space pervious pavers,
Right.
they're still
No, no, no.
considered
Yes.
impervious because
Yes.
they're driven over.
You know, I mean, if they go, if they want to come to your board, in other words, if all of a sudden they're at 70% coverage and they want to say that we're going to change our pavers to 10%, that's going to require a variance for you to approve, if you agree.
Yeah.
So they would have to come before the board to get that relief.
Okay.
I have a
Does
quick
everybody agree
question.
with that then?
Yeah. It gets too complicated when you're trying to factor impervious.
Right.
It'd be a
Right.
lot easier if everybody knew what it was when they came with the applications. It's a lot easier.
True.
So then the board's interpretation would be that any parking space, regardless of the
impervious.
cover, is considered impervious.
Right.
Right.
And
All right,
will you let her know that?
I don't know. Do we need a motion or something on that, Bob? Since we're
Yeah, we should do a
interpreting the
motion.
ordinance?
Oh.
Do a motion?
Frank, one question.
Yeah.
Some of the driveways and parking areas are grassed and they strictly, in the tire area, they have some sort of paver. Is that whole space considered impervious?
Well, we will, based on how we're interpreting this.
Okay, just to be,
So if it's a parking space and it's 9 by 18, or that's the area that's impervious. I don't care what you put there.
okay, I'm with you.
I have a
So wait,
question.
so you're just
Where?
saying it's where the car is parked, not where the
Right.
car drives in to be
Well,
parked.
no, the driveway is also listed in here as impervious. So, you know,
Okay.
if you have your house set back 40 feet and you drive up into your parking space, that whole area from the, you know, where you get onto your property to where you park is impervious.
Okay. Everything is
people-
impervious.
Most people have their parking space within 18 feet of the front of their house. So,
Okay.
you know, there may be a few people with a long driveway, but maybe in the Webster tract, but other than that, most of them are 50 by 100 and the parking space is right in front of your house.
Okay. So can I have a motion that all parking spaces and driveways are impervious, considered impervious, correct?
Right,
Right.
regardless of the material.
Regardless
that-
of the surface.
Right, correct.
Yes. I make a motion to approve it.
Second, Jerry.
Can I ask a question?
No.
No,
Mrs. Edelst?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Herenski,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
yes,
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
yes,
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Jetta,
Yes.
and Mr. Tinquist.
Yes.
So, Bob Shin, are you going to prepare some kind of a letter
Yeah,
indicating what our interpretation is, and we'll forward it to the zoning officer?
I'll send a letter over to her tomorrow, but I do need to talk to you about this and something else. So
Okay,
I'll give you a quick call in the morning tomorrow.
that's fine. I'm on the island in the morning, but how about the afternoon?
Okay, that's
All
fine.
right, I'll
too.
catch up to you.
Thank you, Frank.
Frank, I have a question. It's Penny.
Yes.
You can't see me, but I'm here.
Okay.
Is this going forward now? It's not in conjunction with any of existing driveways right now?
I think at this point, it's going forward from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a question, just so you know, Penny, there was a question on interpretation, and Frank and I had talked about this the other day as well. The zoning officer, how it should be interpreted, how the board should recommend it be interpreted, just so it's consistent. So the engineers and the architects know what the board is looking for. And
Okay.
that's what you've done tonight. You've given them guidance for future, not
Okay.
hindsight, just future.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
that it, everybody?
It for
Other
me.
comments on it? All right, I think that's done for tonight.
Yep.
Kind of a motion for adjournment?
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Everybody join in.
Joe and Penny?
Yeah, I'll second.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Bonnie, don't forget to send me your man.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Okay, I
Okay,
appreciate it.
take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Maybe I'll see you next month.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Okay, good night.
Oh. Okay.